They say there was a girl whom even the Schutzstaffel whispered about when she was captured. Don't go near her. No one knew where she came from or how she slipped through their blockade, only that wherever she passed, German garrisons were left in ruins. The story of Violette Szabo, the agent known by the codename Louise, begins with secrets Britain kept hidden for decades. The 20th century slipped into one of the darkest chapters in human history. Explosions, the shriek of fighter planes, and the iron footsteps of Nazi troops echoed across Europe. In that setting, a small but resilient girl was born in Paris, Violette Reine Elizabeth Bushell, a name that would later become an immortal symbol of courage. Violette carried within her both English and French blood, raised amid the cultural beauty of the two nations, yet shaped by the suffocating atmosphere of a war slowly taking form. From a young age, she lived in an environment of constant physical training, vigorous running, relentless movement, agile like an athlete in competition. Her parents often said she was stronger than most children her age, sometimes even a bit stubborn, but it was that very stubbornness that forged the unmatched fighting spirit she would one day possess. No one at the time could have imagined that this lively little girl would become one of the boldest female warriors of the Second World War. Violette's youth was not painted with roses or peaceful dreams like other young girls. Her life was drawn into the fierce current of history. When Nazi Germany began occupying large parts of Europe, people across the continent found themselves shrouded in darkness. Stories of oppression and brutality seeped everywhere, and for Violette, these stories were not just news. They were warnings that freedom is never guaranteed. She grew up with the understanding that evil cannot be negotiated with. In her heart, a warrior's flame slowly ignited, glowing like a red spark against the darkened skies of wartime Europe. In 1940, at the age of 19, Violette met and fell in love with a remarkable man, Etienne Szabo, a courageous soldier of the French Foreign Legion. Love in wartime always carries its own special colors, intense, brief, and filled with hope. They married after only 8 weeks of knowing each other, as if both understood that time was no longer on their side. But war never grants anyone complete happiness. Etienne departed for North Africa to fight, leaving behind Violette and the baby daughter he would never have the chance to see. And then, the devastating news arrived. Etienne was killed in the Battle of El Alamein in 1942. The pain did more than shatter Violette's heart. It marked the greatest turning point of her life. For many, losing the person they love means losing the reason to live. But for Violette, that loss became an oath. She would continue the fight in his place. The moment she received word of her husband's death, Violette did not collapse, did not drown in grief. She stood tall, her eyes burning with resolve. She applied to join the SOE, Special Operations Executive, the British secret organization that trained agents to operate deep inside enemy-occupied territories. It was a place where the mortality rate was terrifyingly high, where every assignment was essentially a one-way mission. When the SOE assessed Violette's abilities, they quickly realized she possessed rare qualities: an extraordinary memory, able to retain maps and codes after only a few readings; exceptional physical strength, capable of running, climbing, and shooting with astonishing precision; a steel spirit, calm when needed, unyielding in every challenge. One of her instructors once remarked, "She is small and beautiful, but brave and enduring like a tigress." Violet became part of the secret network that Churchill famously described as the army that would set Europe ablaze. From a young widow, she was reborn as a silent warrior, a female agent working behind enemy lines under the codename Louise. On her first parachute jump into occupied France, Violette slipped into the darkness like a silent warrior. She immediately became a crucial element within the resistance networks, taking on roles in liaison work, transmitting messages, distributing weapons, directing attacks, and helping to rebuild groups that had been dismantled or captured by the Germans. She moved between towns, villages, and rural areas like a shadow. By day, she appeared to be just a harmless young woman. By night, she became a significant threat to the German forces. On one occasion, she secretly organized dozens of resistance fighters to transport explosives into an enemy ammunition depot, crippling an important supply route. But Violette's final mission in France would become the brightest moment of her life, and the chapter in which she stepped into legend. In June 1944, just days after D-Day, the resistance network in Limoges was short of leadership, transportation routes were blocked, and German forces were intensifying their hunt for agents. She was ordered to return to France to help restore communications. It was a mission that was almost certainly suicidal. On the very day she began her assignment, her convoy was ambushed by SS troops. While her comrades tried to escape, Violette immediately sprang into action, facing the enemy alone. She dropped into a ditch and fired her Sten submachine gun in rapid bursts, suppressing the advance of the German soldiers. Survivors later recalled she fought like a giant in a small body. When the Sten finally ran out of ammunition, Violette still refused to surrender. She broke from cover, attempting to distract the enemy to give her comrades more time to flee. Her courage saved many lives. At last, completely surrounded, she was captured, though not before instilling fear in her captors with her unyielding spirit. After being captured, Violette endured brutal interrogations and torture. The Germans tried to extract information about the resistance networks, the SOE, the codes, and other agents. But Violette revealed nothing, not a single word, not a single secret slipped from her lips. At Ravensbrück concentration camp, infamous for its cruelty, Violette was imprisoned with other female inmates. Despite being beaten, starved, dehydrated, and abused, she remained unbroken. Fellow prisoners recalled how she always tried to protect the weaker women, shared what little food she had, and kept everyone's spirits alive. Life in the camp was a slow, agonizing death. Yet in that absolute darkness, Violette held on to one thing the enemy could never crush: the spirit of freedom. In 1945, as Germany began to collapse, the Ravensbrück camp tried to eliminate the most dangerous prisoners. Violette Szabo, only 23 years old, was taken away for execution. There was no funeral, no grave, only a small, brave figure disappearing behind the camp walls. But death could not erase Violette from history. On the contrary, it made her a legend. After the war, the British government awarded her the George Cross, the highest honor for bravery. In France, she was decorated with the Croix de Guerre and the Médaille de la Résistance, rare distinctions for a foreigner. To her comrades and to future generations, Violette was more than an agent. She was the embodiment of sacrifice, a young warrior who chose to stand rather than hide, who dared to confront evil instead of letting it spread. Violette Szabo lived only 23 years, too short a life for someone to fulfill personal dreams. But she used those years to forge a legacy untouched by time. In the history of the SOE, many agents are remembered, but few can match Violette's unbreakable spirit, her tragic yet heroic story, and her complete sacrifice for the freedom of the world. She was not a goddess from myth. She was an ordinary human being who dared to do the extraordinary. And because of that, her name became immortal. And that is her journey, filled with blood and tears, yet shining with unbreakable courage, a woman who stepped into history as a steadfast symbol of freedom. If you believe this story deserves to be shared, please leave a like, share the video, and subscribe to the channel so I have more motivation to continue telling the extraordinary journeys of female warriors around the world. Thank you for watching until the end. See you in the next stories.